Today on What It's Like, 1954 Hudson Hornet. 1954 was the last year that Hudson remained independent. But before getting into all of it, I'm Jay. Welcome to What It's Like. This channel, we cover the classics, vintage, some exotics, lots of orphan cars, and cars that tend to get overlooked. Dive in deep with specs, period correct ads, button switches, and knobs. And most importantly, we show what these cars are like. If that sounds like a channel that you will totally dig, subscribe and hit the bell icon next to it to never miss a video. This 1954 Hudson Hornet Club Coupe is currently for sale at Classic Auto Mall in Morgantown, Pennsylvania, which is the largest car consignor under one roof this side of the Mississippi. Well, I'm not 100% sure on that. So, well, at least it's the largest automotive consignment dealership northeastern region of the US of A, with over 912 cars for sale when recording this episode. For more information, pricing, and pictures pertaining to this very car, click the link below after the show. 1954 Hudson model lineup. Well, before we get into all of that, let's talk about 1954 Hudson, the company. Hudson was founded as the Hudson Motor Car Company in 1909 and remained independent until May 1st of 1954 when Nash bought Hudson. They would go on to evolve into one of the most underrated, underappreciated, overlooked companies to ever spawn on God's green earth, American Motor Corporation, or AMC for short. So 1954, in a lot of ways, was the last year of Hudson. 1954, Hudson model lineup. You had the Jet, followed by the Superjet, followed by the Jetliner, the Wasp, followed by the Super Wasp, and at the top was the Hudson Hornet. Hudson did offer one other car. It was called the Italia. Only 25 examples were made, and one prototype of a four-door was ever constructed. Hudson offered the Hornet from 1951 to 1954 as Hudson, and then it was offered from 55 through 57 as AMC. They look very similar in design to the Commodore that preceded it, in my opinion. Just a different grille, but look at the body design. They look very similar. Hudson's pioneered a body design called the step-down bodies. You literally stepped down when you got inside a Hudson. And all that essentially meant was Hudson placement of passenger compartment sat lower inside of the frame. The frame acted like a perimeter. The passengers would be cradled. Well, maybe not that extreme, but they definitely sat down lower than the frame around it. Because of those body characteristics, two things improved. The ride was significantly better than some of those other cars that were being produced at this time, and they also handled better because of lower center of gravity. And they became a huge hit in stock car racing, such as NASCAR on the racetrack circuit, giving V8s back in the day, even the Rocket 88 by Oldsmobile, a run for their money. Hudson would go on to offer the Hornet in two generations. 1954 falls in the first generation, which had a production run of 1950 for the 51 model year up until 1954. 51, 52, 53, 54. 1954 Hudson could be had as a two-door sedan, two-door club coupe, four-door sedan, two-door hardtop, and two-door convertible. 1954 saw a facelift that mimics the smaller Jet, 53 on the top, 54 on the bottom, starting in the front. Just look at how different these two designs are. So let's talk about the similarities first. Both have single headlights and Hudson badges. The 54 isn't curvy like the 53 is. The 54 is more squared off. Both have that pontoon styling. Bumpers have been revised. Turn signals also grew in 54. The hood scoop on the 53 does not look functional, but the one on the 54 is functional. The 53 also has side markers on top of the fenders that are not found on the 54. Looking at the side profile, get a better look at that pontoon styling. Some refer to this as the bathtub Hudson. Side molding is totally different. The 54 doesn't have the rocker molding. 54 wheel discs have been revised. Also, notice the 54 is more squared off in the rear. Gas filler doors are totally different. Tail lights have been moved higher on the 54. Moving to the dash. Dash layouts are totally different with different steering wheels. Which one do you like better in the comment section below, 53 or 54? Let's talk specs. 268.8 inches long, 77.6 inches wide. It rides a wheelbase of 124 inches. It weighs 3,506 pounds. Price, $2,615, which is equivalent to you spending $29,245.23 in the year 2022. Total 1954 Hudson production was 51,314 units, of which total Hornet was 24,833 units. Moving on to engines. There was only one engine on offer, 308 cubic inch displacement, flathead 6, 5 liters. It's good for 160 brake horsepower, 3,800 RPM, 264 pound-feet of torque at 1,800 RPM. Compression, 7.5 to 1, features 4 main bearings. But this engine did come in a couple different flavors. That was the base engine with a single carburetor. Options were twin H power, which boosted performance to 170 brake horsepower, 270 pound-feet of torque. If that wasn't enough, Hudson also offered a high-performance version from the factory called the 7X. It produced 210 horsepower. It used a high-compression head and a special camshaft. Getting back to the base version, when coupled to a 3-speed manual transmission, 0 to 60 could be had in 12.1 seconds, theoretical top speed 85 miles per hour, average fuel consumption 11.8 miles to the gallon. 3 transmissions on offer, 3-speed manual with overdrive, and the GM Hydromatic, which is technically a 4-speed automatic. This car uses trunnions. What are trunnions exactly? Trunnions are like a primitive ball joint. So instead of ball joints, it has trunnions. Every time you grease the front end, it's always imperative that you check out the trunnions to make sure that they aren't going bad, because if they do go bad while you're driving down the road, catastrophic things can happen. Hudson's also use kingpins in the front.
Are no bolts to loosen and rattle. Another thing that makes Hudson a joy to drive is the short turning radius. That turning radius is actually 5 feet shorter than in most other cars its size. And you can get power steering as optional equipment on a Hudson. The same is true of power brakes. And speaking of power, remember, Hudson is the only car that gives you twin H power. That's what gives that powerful big Hudson car its terrific getaway. And it's one good reason why Hudson has won more stock car events than all other makes combined on the world's toughest public proving grounds. See the U.S. stock car champion at your Hudson dealers now.
Let's talk styling. Look at how wide these bezels are. Also, these overriders are designed. Nice Hudson badge here in the center. Look at how these lines come back. And this looks functional. Coming around to the side, get this little line here. Nice Hornet badge there. Look how this comes into a point right here at the cowl, the hood line. It's an interesting hood shape. Also, the windshield curves. I wouldn't say it's like a wraparound windshield per se, but it stops right here at the A-pillar. And all of this bright work going on. That's the radio antenna. This one's got the rain deflectors. These windows aren't very tall. Like, that's my hand for reference. So it's almost 2 of my hand lengths. And back here, it's even more slender. Bright work. Also notice how this door curves in. Lots of bright work on this car. Coming to the rear, notice how it turns. The rear window, it's curved, but it's not wraparound. And it's got short stubby fins, not
anything drastic, but we're not quite there yet. Look at how this protrudes, this belt line. All of this bright work down here. Notice it doesn't have fender skirts. That is a solid piece. Coming back to the tail section, I love these tail lights and how it has this like fin profile. I love this Hornet badge. I love this Hudson badge. And the bumpers, look at the bumpers, how they are a part of the body almost. Shouldn't say that. This piece here makes it look like it's part of the, it's almost like integrated into the body. Getting inside, but before we do, look at how this door handle is designed. The door has some heft to it. Also, I'm getting 40 DeSoto vibes. Check this out. There's a bend in this door. It's bent. This armrest, how it's integrated. Well, I wouldn't say that this is an armrest because there's an armrest up here. So I don't know what this is for, but it was like this on the Hudson Commodore that we did earlier. Armrest, window crank for the big window. It operates like that. This is the window crank for the vent window. Door handle to get out. Before taking a look down inside at the pedal box, notice the frame rails here and the step down design, especially back here. Notice how it steps down. Coming down inside the pedal box, hand brake, brake pedal, gas pedal. Look at how small that brake pedal is. My hand for reference. Just take a gander at this interior. That's what the door sounds like shutting. It's a nice quality shut. Here's what over the hood impression looks like. Here's what first person over the hood looks like. There is tons. There's enough room underneath the steering wheel to move my hand above my lap. I love this steering wheel. It's thin and it's huge. And the reason it's so big is because this car doesn't have power steering and it makes it easier to turn the wheels.
On to the button switches and knobs, starting on the left and moving right. Windshield wipers. Just to the right of that are the weather controls. The slider controls the temperature. The knob controls fan speed, coolant temperature, gasoline gauge. 2 idiot lights, one for oil pressure, one for amp meter. Look at the font used. I totally dig the font that they chose to use. The speedometer, notice 12 miles an hour is the top speed. One has to mentally add a 0 to the end of it. So it's 120 miles per hour is the top speed that is traceable from this speedometer. Odometer in the center. Left and right turn signal indicators just below that. Drive modes read neutral, fourth, drive, 3, low, reverse, clock, ignition, headlights, lighter, and radio.
Up above, there are sun visors. And look, they're two-toned. And look at how they operate. How cool. Dome light above the radio antenna knob, as well as rear view mirror. Look, the antenna is in the down position, but if you rotate it like this, now it's in the up position, and you can feel it lock into place when it hits the top. Another sun visor over here. Operates the same. Ashtray. On to the glove box test. There's the test subject. Here's my hand for reference. Here is our glove box in question. Just take a gander at how absolutely massive that glove box is. No problem at all. In fact, the other camera, this camera, hi everybody, this camera will fit in there as well. And it should. Getting in the rear seat, the seat forward like that. That is how much space you have to get back there. Also notice it does dip down step down design. Here's what the front looks like from the back. Let's take a quick gander at the greenhouse and or pillar to glass ratio. As you can see, the windows are a bit on the slender side. And that is what visibility looks like out the back. It's got a massive rear shelf back here. It's absolutely huge. Knee space, on the other hand, there isn't enough space for a 6 foot tall, 6'2" person to sit back here comfortably. The seat profile looks like this. It's rather upright. It does dip down in the back here, and it kind of like bulges in the center towards the back. It's not a bad seating position, it's just there's not enough space. Windows do go down back here, and they go all the way down. There is a light up here on both sides. Everything that's found on the driver's side is also found on the passenger side. The light switch to activate the lights is right there, and there isn't a light switch over here. So the light switch activates both lights on the passenger side. I guess you could use this as an armrest, but I don't think that that's what that is. This is what I look like sitting in the back. I got tons of headroom. The only issue is the knee situation. The seat would have to be moved up if a 6 foot tall person rode in the back, but it's really not that bad. It's really comfortable back here. Getting underneath the hood release is inside here. That pops it, releases it, I should say. There is a secondary catch. It's right here. So just check that out. It's got twin H power, and twin H is referred to the dual carburetor setup that's on this Flathead 6. Oil filter, coil. This one's got an aftermarket alternator. Looks like there's a shut-off valve for the heater core. Notice the horn sits back in here. There's dual horns, there's one on each side. Check out all that. Look, this hood scoop is functional. You can see my hand, so it sucks in air.
On the positive side, milestone car status, one of the great post-war cars, a true champion, fine performance, great handling, luxurious. Against it, step-down design, some would say look dated by 1951, can be thirsty. All right, now it's time for Would You Rather. 2 scenarios today. Would you rather have a 1952 Hudson Hornet or a 1953 Hudson Hornet or a 1954 Hudson Hornet? I'm going to leave this here. Feel free to pause the video if it isn't enough time. Moving on to the second scenario. In the second scenario are Hudson's potential competitors, starting with the 1954 Mercury Monterey, which could be had a little bit cheaper at $2,370, or 1954 Hudson Hornet, $2,615, or at a little bit cheaper 1954 Pontiac Custom Catalina at $2,557. If you need more time, feel free to pause the video. Moving on to Name That Tune. First person to get both the correct name of the band and song title will have their comment pinned to the top of the comment section. Thank you all so much for coming out and watching this. If you'd like to get in touch with me, shoot me a comment in the comment section below, or check out our Facebook group that correlates with this YouTube channel. And honestly, that is the easiest way to get a hold of me, is find me on Facebook and send me a message. If you don't have Facebook and would like to get in touch with me, shoot me an email. All of that will be linked in the description below. Just know I appreciate all of the support. And until next time, here are some scenes for our next episode. 1930 Franklin Victoria Brome. That's what's coming up next on What It's Like. Catch that episode tomorrow, Wednesday at 4:30 Eastern Standard Time. And until then, Toodaloo! Little Deuce Coupe, you don't know what I got. Little Deuce Coupe, you don't know what I got. Little Deuce Coupe, you don't know what I got. She's my Little Deuce Coupe, you don't know what I got. She's my Little Deuce Coupe, you don't know what I got. Deuce Coupe, you don't know what I got. It's still, even after months, still doesn't sound good as coupe.